A very warm good morning to one and all present here. My name is Nuria Siddiqui. It's an absolute honor to welcome you all to another insightful session organized by the Department of English. As a part of this initiative, a lecture on restoration drama will be delivered by Dr. Pallavi Sharma Goyal, a respected academician and assistant professor of English at Government SMS PG College, Sheikhpuri, Madhya Pradesh, known for her deep knowledge and engaging teaching style. Dr. Goyal will share her valuable insights. We welcome you, ma'am.
So first of all, we will start about the restoration drama, the theatrical revival, and why we are today we are here. We are here just to discuss the salient characteristics of the restoration drama and what is the importance of this age, and what are the difference in the writing comparison to Elizabethan literature that is present in restoration dramatist writings, and what were the causes that the output came in this way that we are going to discuss. Okay, so in this slide we will first of all we will discuss about the introduction, then we will discuss about the prominent themes, the major playwrights, the notable features, impact and legacy, and then conclusion. Then there will be different slides and objective type questions. Okay, uh, so first of all we should know what was the scenario of England during 17th century. Look, when we talk before the Restoration Age, or when we talk before, or when we talk about 16th century English literature, we find that the Elizabethan Age or the Renaissance Age, it was full of vigor. It was a very jubilant age, and very extraordinary developments were going on in every field of in the every field of life. I'm talking about Elizabethan literature. Okay, so Elizabethan age, Queen Elizabeth, she was the ruler. William Caxton, he introduced printing press. The introduction of bricks were also started coming, and there were a kind of revival, or in every field of life. So certainly that's why we called this age Elizabethan age as the age of Renaissance. And what happened after Queen Elizabeth's death in the year 1603, that James I, he came into the throne, and he was the person who was very much devoted to the practices of church. So when we talk about 17th century, because restoration age is the part of the 17th century, so we will try to discuss our the whole outcome of the 17th century. That first of all, there was James I, then there was Charles I, then execution of Charles I in the year 1649, then Oliver Cromwell came in the year 1653, and up to the 1658 he was there, and then Charles II was restored in the year 1660, as it is clear from this slide. Okay, so the whole 17th century revolves around all these five main figures of English literature. Okay, now next move. What happened? The English Civil War period. It came started in the 1642. But first start with this. What happened? The crisis began when James first began to give the church too much importance. And after the accession of Charles I in the year 1625 and to his exile in the year 1649, the period is marked by Cavalier poetry and the rise of Puritanism. So, my dear students, when we talk about this one, the James I, when we talk about the rule of James I, we find that he was very much devoted to the practices of church. And that's why he was not interested in the parliamentarian practices. He was very much a, you can say, a religious sort of person. So when he was he sat on the throne in the year 1603, the whole atmosphere of England, it started becoming a kind of turning into a kind of religious tone. While the Elizabethan literature was full of life, there was no rules and regulations. Everybody was enjoying the life at the utmost point. Slightly at the time of James I, the slight recline or decline started during the reign of James I. So he ruled between 1603 and 1625. In the year 1625, Charles I, he came to the throne. Charles I. Okay, so Charles I, the rule of Charles I, he reigned up from 1625 to 1649, and the rule or the period of the rule of Charles I, it is marked by Cavalier poetry and the rise of Puritanism. A certain kind of purity. What is Puritanism? A certain kind of purity, sanctity started coming or arriving in every form of life, whether it was literature, whether it was the living mode, whether it was in the various streams of merchandise, and so each and every sector there was the Puritanism commenced in the very beginning phase, we can say. So, but what happened, because James I, he was he was totally related with the church practices, and Charles I, he was also following the church. He was not in the favor of church practices. So that's why there was a figure, Oliver Cromwell. That Oliver Cromwell, what he did, uh, he executed Charles I in January 1649. Okay, मतलब देश निकाला दे दिया उसको. So he was executed. Charles I was executed in the year 1649, and Oliver Cromwell established the Commonwealth of England and ruled as Lord Protector from December 1653 until his death in September 1658. So look, while the 16th century prominently we can assert prominently as the age of Renaissance or as the Elizabethan age. But when we talk about the 17th century England, there are so many. It is a mixture of so many ages. Age of James I, then age of Charles I, then Oliver Cromwell, the age of Oliver Cromwell, and after that the Restoration age in the year 1660, and after that again the Civil War happened. So all in all, the 17th century England, it was very much mingling of so many things. So we have completed our James I, the details about James I, then Charles I, then execution of Charles I. So, and why it happened? Because the English Civil War period, it covers the area from the year 1642 to 1651. And why it happened? Because there were conflicts. And the conflicts were present between King Charles I supporters, they were called the Royalists, and the parliamentarians who were eager to belittle the power of the king. Okay, so two factions were there, and the English Civil War is the result of these two fractions, and the war was further aggravated by disputes over government proceedings, religion, and the balance of power between the two poles. Okay, one side there was King Charles, and the other side was the parliamentarians. So King Charles, because I told you earlier, he was very much devoted. he was addressed as the royalist, and the parliamentarians on the other side. So the upheavals resulted in the execution of Charles I in the year 1649. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, so these are the questions that that come in the paper of NAT and in your other exams also. That when was the Charles I was executed? What was the English Civil War period? It was between 1642 to 1651. We should remember all these things. Who was King Charles supporters can be addressed as the Royalists or the Cavaliers or none of the above. So we must remember that King Charles I supporters can be addressed as Royalist. And these were the reasons. The war was, why the war happened, why the English Civil War happened, because there were disputes between government and the parliamentarians, and the proceedings of the government, their opinion about their religion, and because there was a shifting of power, the power was not much balanced between the two poles. So that's why the execution of Charles I appeared in the year 1649, and from here on, Oliver Cromwell, the age of Commonwealth starts. Okay, now we can discuss it in more detail. What was the Puritanism? What was the ideology of the Puritanism? So the Puritans, what they did, they in England could not survive more than 2 years after the death of Oliver Cromwell in the year 1658. It means that Oliver Cromwell's rule was basically supported by the Puritan ideology, and he died in the year 1656, 2 years after the death of Oliver Cromwell in the year 1658. Then the Puritans prohibited the performance of the plays in September 1642. This question come again and again in your paper, in the NET paper, and in your other exams, that when the theatres were closed in England. So theatres were closed in England in the year 1642. And who were the Puritanists? Puritanists were English Protestants who focused on the amendments of the Church of England by purifying it by removing Roman Catholic practices in the church. Means they were English Protestants, they had their belief, but they were mostly concerned with the removal of the Roman Catholic practices in the church. And what their emphasis was basically on moral and religious earnestness, predestination, and a covenant relationship with God. Means Puritan, we can say, it's a kind of Taliban type of approach. Not exactly Taliban, but there were a kind of strict rules and regulations regarding every field. The women were not allowed to write or to play. The topic of literature should be religious, and the middle class people, they were ridiculed in the literature of Puritans. Okay, so the Puritan ideology, all in all, a kind of religious ideology that mainly focused on the removal of Catholic practices in the church. Okay, so I told you already that James I in the year 1603 and 1625, then Charles I, then Oliver Cromwell, we have discussed. Now the important point is Puritans prohibited the dramatists from presenting their art. As a result, the theatres were closed. We have discussed this thing, that the theatres were closed in the year 1642 in the month of September. So what were the options? Options kya the? So drolls or shorter versions of the plays were used to be performed in private. Means those theatres or those dramas that were played extensively or that were staged extensively during the time of Elizabethans, after the arrival of Puritan and after the closing of theatres in the 1642, the option of these large theatres or of these large dramas came in the form of drolls. So this is also an objective type of question, that drolls or shorter versions of the play. What were the options of large theatrical plays in the Puritan age? So drolls, DROLLS, drolls or the shorter versions were used to be performed in private. So in private, we must remember this thing, that while the Elizabethan plays or dramas were a kind of public setting, the drolls or shorter versions were staged in the private places. Okay, now next. So what happened? Because the people of England, they were so much tired by the reign of Oliver Cromwell, that in the year 1660 Charles II returned from exile in France. Okay, so when 60 in the year 1660, when Charles II returned from exile in France, from here the Restoration age starts, and the name Restoration is because Charles II was restored to the throne. Okay, so till now what we see, that most of the time as we talk about the age of Chaucer or the age of William Shakespeare, the that time what happened, that Chaucer or William Shakespeare, they used to roam a lot, and they translated the Italian version, the French version, and the Roman version from their own native language to English. Okay, so these were the translations basically most of the time. But what happened with the return of Charles II, because Charles II was in the France, so he passed a lot of time in the France. So that's why what happened, so when he returned to England, he came with a lot of liking towards the French, French type of art, French type of literature, French type of classicism, like this. So, and with him, other people, other cavaliers also came back. As I told you, that the reign of Charles I has been addressed the age of cavaliers. Okay, the cavalier age. So in the year 1660, what happened, the Stuart dynasty was restored to the throne of England in 1660, and with the restoration of Charles II in the year 1660, the theatres were also restored. That's why the age has been addressed as the age of restoration. दो चीजों का restoration हुआ, the restoration of the king and the restoration of the stages, of the drama stages. Okay, or of the theatres. So the nation, wearied of the strict rule of Cromwell, welcomed the restoration of the Stuarts and suffered without much complaint the disgraceful reign of Charles II for 25 years. And look, what is the most, again, the most interesting thing is that although the people were very much, were very much annoyed because of the rule of Oliver Cromwell, people were also not happy during the rule of Charles II also. But because the rule of Charles II was comparatively easier, was comparatively soothing, was comparatively good, so that's why anyhow the people adjusted, they make adjustments with the rule of Charles II. And but even though beneath the layers, the revolt started. So in the year 1688, what happened, the Glorious Revolution happened, and in which the power of the Stuart kings was curtailed, and Parliament won a great and lasting victory against the abuse of royal power. Okay, so matlab, when we talk about, we can say in today's term, the starting of democracy, not exactly democracy, but the end of end of the rule of the king, and the slightly and the gradual improvement in the field of parliamentary authority, or in the parliamentary reign. It happened. So the Glorious Revolution in the year 1688 curtailed the power of king, and in somewhat way Parliament won a great and lasting victory against the abuse of royal power. So that I told you earlier, that the age 17th century is a mixing of so many things. First there was James I, then Charles I, then Oliver Cromwell, then Charles II, then again James I, and then again the Glorious Revolution. So many things were there during the 17th century of England, in England. So because we are today here to discuss only the restoration drama, so we will focus on only that thing. We will not discuss about poetry and other aspects. We will discuss only restoration drama. So as in the year 1642, the theaters were closed. Again in the year 1660, the theaters were open. And what was the form of the Restoration Theatre? It was standing between the Elizabethan theatre and 19th or early 20th century theatre. It was standing between Elizabethan and 19th or early 20th century. Okay, is it clear to all of you? Hello.
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
ओके मुझे इसलिए पूछना पड़ता है कि एम आई ऑडिबल, वॉइस तो नहीं चला गया. चलिए तो नेक्स्ट अपन चलते हैं. वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट द ऑडियंस. व्हाट वाज द फॉर्म ऑफ ऑडियंस, मतलब ऑडियंस का प्रकार क्या था, वो कैसे थे. तो ऑडियंस अपने को फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी शुड नो दैट द रिस्टोरेशन एज वाज वेरी पर्टिकुलर and it was restricted both geographically and socially than it had been before the closing of the theaters. Why it has been said like this? Because the audience and the theaters of Elizabethan age, they were a kind of public public activity. Each sector of society was fully involved while they watch the staging of the plays. They were interested in the staging of the plays, and some were also played a part in so many dramas. So the whole country, the Elizabethan age had the influence over the whole country, but the influence of the Restoration age was very limited geographically and socially. Why I am saying this? Because there are proofs that the Restoration affected only London, mostly London. Okay, no dramatic activity outside London has been noticed in the history of English literature. Okay, so and especially because it was restricted only inside London, so the playhouses did not have a kind of respectable identity. उनकी कोई respectable identity नहीं थी. ठीक है. And they ridiculed the middle class at its every core. Means they only talk either about the parliamentarian approach or about the kingly approach. They were not interested in any form about the middle class. Then who were the people who influenced Restoration comedy? Ben Jonson was the person who deeply influenced Restoration comedy. The dramatists of the Restoration period, they refined, localized, aerated, and sometimes dandified his kind of comedy, but what they learned from him remained fundamental. It means that the impact on the comedy or impact on the drama, Ben Jonson deeply impacted the writers, and they followed and refined the ideology of Ben Jonson presented in the comedy in their own forms, in their own words, but what they learned from him remained fundamental. Means Ben Jonson's writing functioned as the base for the writers of Restoration. Okay, so Restoration drama, we can say it was a kind of class drama to a degree that no earlier English drama, not even the citizen comedy of the Elizabethans, been. So Restoration drama excelled Elizabethans comedy in a certain kind that it becomes as a form of much approved version of citizen comedy. And it represented the stylization of a deliberately cultivated upper class ethos. As I told you that upper class, they did not talk about middle class. They most of the time they talk about upper class and about the parliamentarian approach, and it was a wish fulfillment world rather than a dream world. It was a quotation of David Duchess that he wrote in his book A Critical History of English Literature. Okay, I have given the references also. Then how was the social life? The social life suggested the wide swing of the pendulum from one extreme to the other. While in the Puritanism, they were very strict in each and every aspect, but in the Restoration time, a kind of a light humor arrived, a kind of mockery arrived, you can say a light literature arrived. The theaters were reopened Okay, we know this thing. The bull and bear betting, it also started. Then sports, people started taking interest in sports because it was prohibited during the time of Puritans. They started taking interest in music, and involvement in other activities increased. The morals of the people were entirely changed, and everywhere there was levity in life. Means everyone wants to lead a lavish life, without paying heed on sin or on the evil causes, on anything, on any bad. Just they live their life up to the utmost core. Okay, so and largely rejected the strict puritanical values, introduced more indulgent approach to life and art. Means indulgence appear not only in approach towards life but in art also. And when we talk about indulgent, it means a kind of sexual representation, erotic representation, and extramarital relationships, mocking about the relationships, all such things started. So thus theater became a space where the elite could showcase their sophistication and wit. As I told you, because the middle class was ridiculed at its every core. So who were the people who watched watched these dramas? The upper class people. And because these upper class people have already been considered as the sophisticated people, so the a kind of sophistication and wit appeared in the writings of the restoration dramatist. And in what happened in the politics, in the political field, there were signs of strife between the Whigs and the Tories. It is not wings, it is Whigs. WHIGS. So Whigs and Tories, two political parties, they came onto the horizon, and there was a rapid development of science, and the establishment of the Royal Society was a landmark. The establishment of the Royal Society, here is a an objective type of question. When the establishment of Royal Society occurred, the establishment of the Royal Society occurred in the Restoration age in the year 1660. Then break from the Elizabethan tradition. As I told you earlier, that Elizabethan romanticism had all but spanned itself. But the old Elizabethan spirit, marked with a love for patriotism, I have told all this, by the new spirit of realism and search for fact, the Puritan spirit with its moral earnestness and individualism was driven out, and its place was taken by the new spirit of gaiety and moral turpitude. As I told you earlier, that people were interested only on leading their life at the utmost core. They did not pay attention on sin or on the Puritan ideology of the earlier. Imitation of the ancients, because they were not like the Elizabethans. They were not, neither they were Elizabethans nor they were Puritans. So what were their identity? They turned towards the great classical writers. Okay, and particularly to the Latin writers for guidance and inspiration. So this habit, quite noticeable during the time of Dryden, deepened and hardened during the succeeding era of Pope, as much so that the later laid down as a final test of excellence. Means Alexander Pope talked about the Restoration age. Learn hence, for ancient rules are just esteem, to copy nature is to copy them. Again, this is a objective question. Who stated this? To copy nature is to copy them. The both two lines. These lines have been asked so many times in the paper of Nat earlier, and it was addressed by Alexander Pope, and he said about the writings of the Restoration writers, because they took their interest or diverted their interest to the classical writings of Latin literature. And these are the lines of Alexander Pope. Now next. These are the features of the Restoration writing. The critical school. During the Restoration, the critical spirit dominated and the imaginative spirit was thrown in the background, while the theaters, or the romantic literature, or the literature of Elizabethans, or the literature of during the time of James First. It was a kind of imaginative spirit, imagination. It was the result of the imagination. But in the time of Restoration age, the critical spirit dominated. They started analyzing each and every aspect of the life. They were not imaginative, they were they had a critical spirit. They were classicists. They were addressed as a classicist because they turned their interest to from the light literature to the classic literature. Then a kind of a different kind of comedy appeared, and the name of this is Comedy of Manners. Comedy of Manners, it portrayed and satirized the superficiality, hypocrisy, and decadence of the elite class. Because most of the time, the restoration drama or the restoration staging of the drama was seen by upper class. But what was there on the stage? The stage was mocking on the superficiality, hypocrisy, and decadence of the elite class. So this kind of comedy is called comedy of manners. And this is the very specific quality or the salient characteristic of this age. And what happened? The characters often represented stock figures, such as the foppish dandy, the rakish gentleman, or the scheming widow. Means all such type of characters were present in the writings of Restoration dramatists, and they represented stock figures. Means a different kind of figures that mocked the elite class. And such comedy of manners, what are the examples? The examples, The Way of the World by William Congreve and The Country Wife by William Wycherley. These are the names of some of the important comedy of manners of the Restoration age. Then the next thing of Restoration age was love and sexuality. The love and sexuality, the plays embrace the themes of love, desire, and sexual freedom in an open and often provocative manner. Marriage was represented as a social contract rather than any romantic union and lacking in morality. Look, there is a stark difference between between the writing and the approach. As we discussed earlier, that the people were more turned towards the classic writing, towards the Latin writing or the classic writings. But in their writing, what they wrote about love, they wrote about sexuality. They took a very light kind of themes, and marriage was not presented as a very moral thing. It was not a kind of any romantic union. It always lacked in morality. Okay, so these are the contrast. Then the next thing is tragedies and comedies. What was the dominant field? Comedies were dominant, and tragedies followed the pattern of heroic drama. Comedies were dominant, means so many writers wrote mostly comedies, and the output or the outcome of tragedies were very scanty. And the characters were depicted as grand, idealized persons, but torn between their love and honor or duty. As an example, All for Love by John Dryden. All of you have read the play All for Love. आप लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा
Yes,
ना, है ना?
yes, ma'am.
ऑल फॉर लव का क्या है वो, क्या कहते हैं इसको? एंटनी एंड क्लियोपैट्रा का इट्स अ वर्जन है. It has been said. So comedies were dominant, tragedies followed the pattern of heroic drama, but in the tragedies, the characters were depicted as grand, idealized persons and torn between their love and honor or duty, like All for Love by John Dryden. And All for Love by John Dryden, you know that it is a kind of representation of Antony and Cleopatra written by William Shakespeare. Now the next thing is flamboyant and realistic characters. Means flamboyant means the characters were full of energy. Okay, they were vivid, dynamic, and often exaggerated to critique society or amuse the audience. Means most of the time they were vivid. Means they were not vivid. Means they were very particular. They were dynamic, they were full of energy, and often exaggerate. They make exaggeration while analyzing or criticizing any aspect of society, just to amuse the ऑडियंस. लोग बागों को खुश करने के लिए वो किसी भी हद तक जा सकते थे. The rakish, dashing, charming but ambiguous male hero became a signature character type. So this kind of male character is present in so many writings of the Restoration dramatist. And the next thing is influence of French theatre. Because Charles II came from France, and his other associates, they were in exile in France, and they also came with Charles II. So naturally they took the French impression with them and reached their country. The blend of English exuberance and French decorum gave birth to polished structure and witty dialogue. Okay, French decorum, there was a mixing or mingling of English exuberance and French decorum. And what was the result of this mingling? That a polished structure appeared in the writing, and a kind of witty dialogue also appeared. So witty dialogue were present during the time of Elizabethan age also. When we talk about or discuss about the Shakespeare's drama or the dramas of Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus's. So in this field, we find that their writing were witty, है ना? So same thing appeared in the Restoration age also. Then prologues and epilogues became an integral part and created a direct connection with the audience. Prologues and epilogues, and women on stage. Good. The female actors were introduced, replacing young boys who had traditionally played female roles. Actresses like Nell Gwyn became famous for their talent and personal life. This is the question that have been asked, that is asked so many times in the paper, in the UGC net paper. Who was the female writer? Who was the female actress first time appeared on the stage? So Nell Gwyn was the first female actress who appeared on the English stage during the time of Restoration. So all these points: women on stage, prologues and epilogues, influence of French theatre, flamboyant and realistic characters, the critical school, comedy of manners, love, sexuality, tragedies and comedies. All such are the main qualities of the Restoration dramatist. Restoration dramatist writing style. Okay, ये imitation of the French, ये मैंने आपको बताया. ये literary man began to imitate the French writers. Regarding the French influence on English literature of this period, W.H. Hudson, he remarks, the European supremacy of Italy had now passed away, and France had become the world's great arbiter of taste. The political relations between the two countries naturally tended to give vogue in England to all things French, including French taste and French ideas of art. As I told you earlier, that while Chaucer while Chaucer or the contemporaries of Chaucer or the contemporaries of Shakespeare, they took inspiration from the Latin text or from the Roman text, but this time the French domination was there. The dominance of French was explicitly visible. These are the prominent playwrights of Restoration drama. I have given these dramatists' name in a particular, ascending order. Okay, John Dryden, Thomas Butterton, George Etheridge, Afra Wayne, William Wycherley, Thomas Otway, Mary Picks, William Congreve, and George Furger. All these are in ascending way, based on their year of birth. Based on the year of birth. So they are in ascending order, and chronological sequence is also asked in exams. So you must remember their their year of birth and their year of death, because they ask sometimes arrange these writers based on their date of year, birth of year, in the ascending order or in the descending order. Write the chronological sequence of these writers. So I have given this sequence for your help. Now come to the next slip. The first accomplished practitioner was George Etheridge. Okay, he was an English diplomat and creator of the Restoration era comedy of manners. His first comedy was The Comical Revenge or Love in a Tub. It was premiered at Lincoln's Inn Fields Theatre in 1664. All these points can be included in the objective form. Who was the first accomplished practitioner of the Restoration comedy? He was not John Dryden, he was George Etheridge. Okay. Who was the English diplomat? George Etheridge was the English diplomat. And when was the Comical Revenge or Love in a Tub was premiered? At Lincoln's Inn Field in the year 1664. Where it was premiered at Lincoln's Inn Fields. Who was the writer? George Etheridge. And it was a comedy. He was the person who created the Restoration era comedy of manners, George Etheridge, not John Dryden. Then these are his other names. She Would If She Could. It was his second comedy. Was the first comedy. It was his second comedy, but the first comedy of manners to attain unity of tone. His last and wittiest comedy, The Man of More or Sir Fopling Flutter. These questions come so many times in your exams. The wit combats between Dory. Who were the characters? Doriment and Harriet were the characters in this drama. है ना? And which goes back at least to Shakespeare's Beatrice and Benedict, means they resemble with the characters of Beatrice and Benedict in Shakespeare writing, and he was knighted in the year 1680. Because we have limited time, so that's why I am moving very fast. Then the second person was William Wycherley. He produced his 4 comedies between the year 1671 and 1676. Okay, and his writing style was different, and he was more related to Johnsonian humor. Johnsonian means we are talking about Ben Jonson. Okay, Johnsonian humor. And his first play was Love in a Wood and The Gentleman Dancing Master. It appeared in the 1673. In 1671, The Country Wife. The Country Wife reflects an aristocratic and anti-Puritan ideology. Okay, and it is acknowledged for its explicitly delineated sexual controversy. The Country Wife. The Plain Dealer. What is in Plain Dealer? It is a caricature of the litigious amateur of law who is girled in the end in a somewhat Johnsonian manner. Means William Wycherley's writing was very much different from George Etheridge. While George Etheridge was he was the first person who introduced comedy of manners. William Wycherley was the person who introduced Johnsonian humor in his writings. Now the third one, William Congreve. And William Congreve has been considered as one of the supreme master of the comedy of manners. And he wrote all his plays before he was 30 years age, means when he was very young. During that time, he wrote all these writings. His first play was Old Bachelor, and he was hated by Dryden. Who was hated by Dryden? William Congreve was hated. Look, in these restoration dramatists, there are names that look alike. They are similar. So that's why a kind of confusion comes. So you must be clear in your mind. Okay. And so William Congreve was hated by Dryden and others as a miracle of the theatre of those days, because he wrote most of the writings before he was even 30. That's why some of his contemporaries, they hated him a lot. Lord Falkland admired the plot and intrigue in the following witty lines addressed to the audience itself. ये सब उसकी writings का ही डिटेल है. अपन टाइम से ज़्यादा होता जा रहा है, इसलिए मैं थोड़ा जल्दी कर रही हूँ. Sir, Love for Love, it is a writing of William Congreve. The Way of the World, it was his last play. It was produced, और ये जो Way of the World था, it was based on the Collier's pamphlet. Collier was a French person. Collier was a French writer, and he wrote a pamphlet, a short view of the profaneness and immorality of the English stage. इस पर based था क्या? The Way of the World, and it is a work of art, and it has been considered as the best work of William Congreve. This question also asked in the exam. The Way of the World is based on which French writer's writing? And the writer's name is Collier's. Then the next one, Sir John Munro. His plays are mostly remarkable because his plays are full of energy and genial humor. These are the names of his comedies: The Relapse, The Provoked Wife, and Confederacy. And he is fond of farce. Farce means a brutal type of humor, we can say. And he was good at caricature. and in his hands comedy is brought down from the higher level to the lower depths of farce, because he wrote a lot of farce. And farce is, as I told you, that it's a kind of brutal kind of comedy. So naturally it shifts from higher level to the lower level. The next person was George Farquhar. His plots are more carefully elaborated than those of Congreve, and he retains a reflection of the wit of Congreve. Means he liked the writing of William Congreve, but he did not write in the comedy of manners, in the form of comedy of manners. And his main plays are like these: The Love in Battle, The Recruiting Officer, and The Buick's Stratagem. All these names of plays have been asked so many times by giving so many names, and they asked who is the writer who has not written this thing. Means they give you 3 or 4 options, and from these 4 options you have to decide whether the writer who is the writer in these 4 options, or who is not. They ask in so many ways, it depends on them. Then the Thomas Shadwell. Thomas Shadwell के बारे में there is a very interesting thing that Dryden mocks about Thomas Shadwell in his writing Macflack No. Again, there is a question of an objective question that has been asked so many times, that who was the person who was mocked in the writing of Dryden's Macflack No. So Thomas Shadwell was the person who was mocked in the writing of Macflack No. So Thomas Shadwell, little is known about his life, and he has been remembered chiefly on account of Dryden's portrait of him in Macflack No. These are his writings: The Sullen Lovers, The Squire of Alsatia, Bury Fair, Epsom Wells, The True Widow. All these are the names of his writings. Then, now let's discuss the female writers. Aphra Behn. Why I have given the 1640 to 40, it's not sure. Either it can be 1642 or 1640. That's why the year of her birth is not sure. She was an English dramatist, fiction writer, and poet, and the first English woman who earned her living by writing. Before Aphra Behn, there was not a single English woman who earned her living by writing. आप लोगों में से कई ने पढ़ा होगा A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. किसी ने पढ़ा है?
नो मैम, उसके बारे में पढ़ा है.
हाँ, उसके बारे में पढ़ा है. So just I am giving you reference of her writing, Virginia Woolf. What Virginia Woolf wrote in Room of One's Own, that for a woman it is very necessary to have some money in her account or in her hand, and a roof of her own over her head to be settle in life. And she was she was in anger when she visited Cambridge and Oxford University, and he addressed these universities as Oxbridge, and she told, and she has written in her book that what our mothers were doing when William Shakespeare was there, what our mothers were doing when Chaucer was there, when Christopher Marlowe was there, when Ben Jonson, Milton, and other male writers were there, what they were doing. They were just busy in making making themselves beautiful, and according to the standards of male person or male society. So why there were not a single woman writer during the time of William Shakespeare or during the time of other men writers? So she also mentioned the name Aphra Behn there in her writing also. So she said that it is very necessary that being an independent woman, we can explore the world with a very different perspective. So it is very important that Aphra Behn becomes the first English woman who earned her living by writing. Okay. Whenever you get time, please try to read the book that I am referring you, Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. It is very, very inspiring. चलिए अभी तो अपन इस पर लौटते हैं. So Aphra Behn, then she was employed by King Charles II in the Secret Service in the Netherlands in 1666. Then who was the writer who was employed by King Charles II in the Secret Service? Aphra Wynne was the writer who appointed her King Charles II. Okay? And when she was appointed in the year 1666, all these are objective type of questions. Why I have written these in these slides like this? Why I have not written in a continuous line? Just to give you an idea about the objective type questions. Okay, so each sentence can be asked in the form of objective type of questions. Then her early works were tragicomedies in verse: The Forced Marriage, The Amorous Prince, Abdelazar. The only tragedy of her was staged in 1676. It means that she was not only the first English writer who earned her living by writing, but her tragedy was also staged in the year 1676. So restoration drama is a has a kind of importance regarding the women writers. The Rover, it came in two parts and was produced in 1677 and 1681, and it was commercially successful. And it was about the adventures of a small group of English cavaliers in Madrid and Naples during the exile of the future Charles II. The Emperor of the Moon first performed in 1687. So Aphra Wynne was the first writer who got benefited by her writing. Then the second woman writer was Mary Picks. She was a notable playwright in the late 17th and early 18th centuries, and she was one of only three women whose works were staged in the Restoration period. The others were Aphra Wynne and Susan Cantilever. Means three women: Aphra Wynne, Mary Picks, and Susan Cantilever were the three women whose plays were staged in the on the Restoration stages or theaters. And she was well supported by William Congreve, and her work is Ibrahim, the 13th emperor of the Turks, and it was acknowledged pretty well and revived so many times. And she also wrote the farce The Spanish Wives. She has been acclaimed as an astounding figure in the evolution of English drama. Then John Dryden. What time? Do we have time? Can be extended for more 5 minutes, 5 minutes more. Hello?
Yes, ma'am, no problem.
Okay. So we are talking about John Dryden. He's one of the most prominent figure of this Restoration age. I have given in large. He so extensively wrote in all genres of literature, and he attended Westminster School, Trinity College, and in the year 1660, Charles granted 2 patents for theatres, which were soon grabbed by Dryden as he started writing new plays with a band of dramatists for the revived English theatre. आजकल एक टर्म बड़ी यूज में आती है, intellectual property rights. When we talk about intellectual property rights, it is basically related about the basic right of the related person who introduced it or who write about it. Then in this intellectual property rights, patent also come. So Charles, it was in the history of means there are very few examples in history that we find the example of patents. So with John Dryden, we can say that he was benefited when Charles granted him 2 patents. His first play was The Wild Gallant. It was produced in 1663. It was a failure. Then in collaboration with Sir Robert Howard, he wrote The Indian Queen. It was a heroic tragedy in rhymed couplet. It was a slightly successful play. And his first success was The Indian Emperor. It was his first success. It came in the year 1665. Then Secret Love, Maiden Queen. Then Essay of Dramatic Poesy. This is the important thing. Of dramatic poesy, he delineated his views in defense of English drama. In this writing, so many questions asked in your paper from this writing. What Dryden did, he wrote about four people. And he named these 4 people, four characters. First one was Crites. He was addressed as the defender of the ancients. Then Eugenius, advocate for modern drama. Then Lycidius, supporter of French drama, and Neander, Dryden's point of view. Means about these 4 characters, With the help of these four characters, he delineated his views about the English drama. Okay, so these questions, most of the time, these questions like who was the Crites represented in Essay of Dramatic Poesy by Dryden. So Crites, he was the preserver of the ancients. इसको आप पढ़ लीजिएगा फिर when I will share. Then Eugenius, he was an advocate for modern drama. And then Lycidius, he was the supporter of French drama. Neander was the representative of Dryden's own views. And these questions are also asked. Who said these lines? So Samuel Johnson called him a man of immense genius. These questions also asked. In his opinion, his dramas lacked the cohesive structure and emotional depth of Shakespearean drama. Means Samuel Johnson at one point he is praising Dryden that he had a genius. He is a genius, but his dramas lacked the cohesive structure and emotional depth. This question was asked in your NET paper. Who addressed John Dryden as a person of genius but lacking in the emotional depth of Shakespearean drama. So Samuel Johnson was the person. Then he felt Dryden's stress lay more in his poetry and criticism than his plays. This is the question again. It was asked that who was the person who considered that Dryden's strength was strictly explicitly visible in poetry rather than in criticism. Okay, तो ये भी क्वेश्चन आया था. फिर what was the view of Alexander Pope about Dryden? Alexander Pope said about Dryden to adapt and innovate across genres, including he admired Dryden's contribution to the theatre and hinted that Dryden's true genius shone more brightly in his poetry and criticism rather than in his dramatic compositions. So he has a different kind of view than Sainsbury. George Sainsbury praised Dryden. What was the view of T.S. Eliot? He was a modernist poet. He praised Dryden's linguistic precision and his role in shaping the modern English idiom. According to Eliot, Dryden struggled to fully succeed because his intellectual brilliance and poetic style sometimes overshadowed the emotional and narrative depth necessary for great plays. These questions can be asked. They will give you the lines and they will ask the name of the person who was the person. So summing up the Restoration comedy, Edward Nicole says that Restoration drama, it may be immoral and vulgar, but it possesses the divine gift of laughter, and that because of the rising sentimental and moral movement, it was destined for many years to disappear in favor of impossible disquisitions on human virtue, artificial sentimentalizing and inordinate sense of pathos and pity. Means Nicole says the Restoration, we can address Restoration drama as a bit of immoral drama, but because of the arrival of Restoration drama, a kind of laughter again appears in the life of English people, which was diminished during the rule of Puritan and Cromwell. And from here, the journey of English drama started while taking the sentimental motion, the moral movement or the moral motion inside their writings. These are the references, these are the questions. So based, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था, based on their year of birth, arrange these writers in the correct ascending order. Dryden, William Wycherley, Marepix, Thomas Batterton. The answer is 2. Second means John Dryden, then Thomas Batterton, then William Wycherley, and then Marepix. Then second one, an essay of dramatic poesy was published in the year 1688. Then match the following. जैसा मैंने बताया था, Neander, Lycidius, Eugenius, Crites. So who was Neander? He was Dryden's own views. Lycidius, supporter of French drama. Eugenius, advocate for modern drama. And Crites, preserver of the ancients. Next, who was employed by King Charles II in the Secret Service in 1666? Aphra-Behn, as I told you. Who wrote the farce The Spanish Wives? Marepix. Who was the first English woman who earned a living by writing? Aphra-Behn. Who ruled England during the Jacobean age? James I. The origin of the comedy of manners is in France. Theatres were closed in 1642. Which one of the following is not a play by Wycherley? इस चीज को ध्यान से पढ़िएगा आप लोग. जब अपन जल्दी में रहते हैं, what we do not really understand the question. Just we start, which one of the following we are asking about not a play. We are not asking which one of the playing is a play. of the following is a play? We are asking not a play. So what is not written by Vaikarle is The Man of Mode. Look, all these names, they look similar. Hai. So that's why a lot of confusion appears. Which one of the following is not a comedy by Etheridge, The Plain Dealer? Okay. Sir, Foppling Flutter is the subtitle of the play. It is The Man of Mode. So this is this. Thank you so very much for sharing your time with me and giving me the opportunity to share my views on the topic and considered me as a person to guide you. Thank you so very much. It was a nice experience. My blessings, my well wishes, all of you, with all of you.